Hey guys, Stealth here. Someone in the comments requested that I have a look at a West-German Motorized deck. I'm not sure if this is a viable situation, but I'm going to try building it with a situation in mind where I'm going to try and quickly capture either forests or towns, or push up along with an armored deck, providing the infantry so that the armored player can focus on bringing the tanks. So it's going to be a West-German Motorized deck, and I may just conclude at the end of the video that this thing isn't viable at all. Okay, we're going to start with the logistics units, and we're going to go with a Fuchs. These things are nice and fast, and you get 5 of them. They have a bit of armor, although not too much. And I think that they might be among the fastest off-road vehicles in the game, with a speed of 105. Now, next up, we're going to bring the infantry, and unfortunately I think that we're going to run out of transports pretty quickly, at least the Fuchs Milan. Now personally I would prefer bringing everything in the Fuchs, except for one card of Fallschirmjäger, which I want to bring in Helos. I know a motorized deck is supposed to be ground based, but a Fallschirmjäger unit is always very effective if it's airborne, because that means you can attack from unexpected flanks. And with their off-road speed of 30, you can actually walk these guys right around a defensive circle and try to get to, for example, spot a command vehicle, artillery unit, or AA unit. Now, I don't have access to Panzer Grenadiers, unfortunately not. So the main force is going to be consisting of either Jaeger or Fallschirmjäger. Now personally I would prefer Fallschirmjäger, but they are 3 times the price of the Jaeger. And that means that I will have to separate them between tasks. The Jaeger, I want to have at least one card of those in there because they're a nice holding force. They can capture a building block or several building blocks and hold them for me. So for that I'm going to bring 19 of those, so that should be plenty. Then let's go with... I'm not sure about the Fuchs Milan. The reason I'm saying that is because that Milan missile is not really that good. But why not? Let's bring 10 of those. Let's bring the Fliegerfaust 2 in the standard Fuchs. And we're going to go with 7 because they already got a great accuracy. The Fliegerfaust itself, not so good. Only 35% accuracy. It's the same red-eye missile that you may recognize from the Commonwealth decks. And personally I don't like it that much. I'm going to bring some Deckungsgruppe. These units I can also stack in towns to provide additional fire support. They got a pretty high amount of armor penetration, great accuracy. They carry 10 of these rockets for a 10-point group. And I'm only going to be paying 10 points for the transport. So that's a pretty good bargain for me. Then I'm also going to bring Milans. I know I usually don't bring ATGM infantry, but in a situation like this they are pretty much mandatory. Because you're going to see that I don't really have any good access to tanks. I'm going to go with this for now. I got enough infantry this way. It's not the best. And for example, if you don't like the Deckungsgruppe, if you don't think that you will be using those, you can go and buy yourself another card of Fallschirmjäger. Because why not? Or actually, one reason why not is that you're paying 45 points for this. That includes the Fuchs Milan. If you're going to go just with the Fuchs, you're going to be 40 points. That's still twice the price for a Deckungsgruppe. Alright, we got a bit of support, but it's not that much. The advantage is that it's usually going to be really fast. Like, for example, the FRR Roland 2. It doesn't have quite the range of the Roland 3 weapon system, but 3.5 or 3.1 kilometers isn't bad. So I'm going to go with one card of those at high 5 hardened. We only get access to the Flakpanzer Gepard A1, not the A2 with stingers, but this should be enough. I'm going to go with 2 of those, and then one card of mortars. I usually don't use any of this HE artillery, the MLRS systems, but if you think that you will, just throw them in there. And who knows, maybe I have enough activation points at the end to actually throw one of those in there. Tanks, I already briefly mentioned it, I don't have access to a lot of stuff. I only have access to what I suppose you could call medium tanks, such as the Leopard 1A5. Now they have a pretty punchy gun of 16 armor penetration, but the problem is that their front armor is not going to stand up to enemy tanks which are of the heavy variety. So say you're facing off against something that's worth somewhere between 120 and 170 points, this unit will probably die relatively quickly. Still, they can provide pretty good fire support, they have medium optics and pretty good off-road speed for a tank. So I'm going to bring in a couple of those. Leopard 1A4s you can use as a reinforcing unit or a flanking unit. They are slightly inferior to the 1A5 stat-wise. Less armor penetration, less accuracy, virtually less everything, but they are still an okay unit if you want to defeat transports, for example. Leopard 1A2 I would stay away from. They don't have the accuracy or the armor to do anything really well. And the same goes for the M48 pattern line. 5 frontal armor, 11 armor penetration and no stabilizer makes it so that I will not pick this unit. Reconnaissance wise we get quite a lot of points here, or at least a lot of activation slots, and that's because with a motorized deck you get a slight bonus to recon. So what I'm going to do is bring 1 card of foreign spares, and I get 5 of those per card instead of the usual 4 when you're using Eurocorps, for example. So with this I got a good stealthy sniper spotter force. Throw in a card of Tiger helicopters, good stealth, exceptional optics, fast unit and all-round weapon systems, can engage both air and ground targets. And actually lately I have seen one of these bastards down a seaplane. The seaplane was mine, so I was rather unhappy with that, but those Stinger missiles can actually be pretty damn risky even to enemy aircraft. Let's see, other units I can go with are the BGS. You can spread these out all over the battlefield, especially if you bring them in a Jupiter. I usually never ever bring Recon Infantry in a Jupiter because they're so slow. So the only viable option would be to get another CS-53. But I'm personally very happy to spend another 15 points on that and get another card of Fern Spares. And with this I can spot for friendlies to make sure that they can deliver the damage to those targets. The question is, what am I going to go with? I'm going to first fill up the deck with what I need, which is, for example, a fast spotter, which also has a gun, like the Leopard 1A1. I'm going to get 10 of those. They're not terribly accurate, but they have good optics, they got a bit of armor, and that's more than you can say for virtually any other recon unit. Another unit that I also really like is the Lux. You can go for 2 varieties. And that's either the Lux A1 or the Lux. The Lux A1 has very good optics. It has the same amount of armor. It has the same stats on most of the weapons except for accuracy, which is 10% higher as well as 5% better stabilized. Other than that, it's the same weapon. So you're basically paying another 15 points to switch from good optics to very good, and that is worth it for me, because I really like using these things. So now I got a fast ground vehicle for scouting, I got an aerial scout, I got a ground scout as a passive spotter, and I got a bit of an offensive scout in the form of this Leo 1A1. I'm not going to pick anything else just yet, but I'll probably revisit this category afterwards. Now, we don't have any good anti-tank capacity yet. The infantry do have the Milan. They do have 24 armor penetration, but their accuracy is pretty crappy at 40%. So the anti-tank capacity is going to have to come from here. And that means either going with the Milan 2, the Iltis, or the Jaguar 2. The difference is that the Jaguar uses the Ito missile system and the Milan 2 uses the Milan F2 system, which has less range, less accuracy, and more armor penetration versus better accuracy, better range, and less penetration. The Jaguar 2 will struggle to go through frontal armor of heavy tanks. The Milan 2 will not struggle, but by the time that the missile gets there, the tank or the Iltis might actually be blown up. You also got access to the Weasel, and I think that I am going to have to use this unit for this situation. I'm not happy about it, and that's mainly because of their poor autonomy of only 200. But when these things do hit, they do a lot of damage. They get 25 armor penetration with great accuracy and a good range, so I'm gonna have to go with a couple of these. You can also go with the Weasel 1 Mark 20. This will give you an autocannon, but again, it has the problem of autonomy. They just don't have any fuel. So you will probably be very often be forced to resupply these, as well as having terrible accuracy. So that's not something I'm going to go with. Unit I always bring when I'm using either a Eurocorps or a West German deck, and you may have seen me use this many times, is the Mortar VTS-1. Good ground support, fire support vehicle. 40% accuracy, no stabilizer, but that's okay. I usually park these guys in tree lines. 15 armor penetration is enough to go through most vehicles, especially from the side. You can penetrate anything from the side using that 15 armor penetration. The Flakpanzer Gepard, or the Flakpanzer M42A1, is something that you can use, especially in tree lines and forests, but I don't really find a use for it, because it's another one of those units that gives me a headache caused by the low autonomy. So I'm not going to use this one. The Kanonenjagdpanzer, interesting unit, at least the way it looks, but other than that, its stats are pretty crappy. Autonomy for this one is at least okay, but it only has 8 armor penetration, 30% accuracy, and no stabilizer. So moving on, helicopters. We're going to go with one card of those Stinger Helos. You never know when they can come in handy. As well as going with 2 cards of the BO 105P, which will give me 6 hot missiles per helo. And these can also be used to flank to flank tanks and try to get side shots, which will usually insta-kill even the super heavy. The air category is very lightly populated, and that means that I cannot spend a lot of points on aircraft. I don't need to, but the aircraft that you do get are on some areas pretty damn nice, and on some areas they're really lacking. The F4F KWS, for example, this is a 140 point air superiority fighter, and while it isn't bad, it is not as good as you would like it to be. It carries 3 fire and forget long range missiles, 4 short range missiles, but I wouldn't want to get it into a short range dogfight, because it has a turn radius of 400. Which, especially for example the MiG-29s, are just going to laugh at. So a MiG-29 sees this unit and goes, well, I can easily outdance that thing. And it will probably kill off your F4F. But you do get 2 of them for 1 card. You could go with 1 elite, but I think that I will be bringing these out in a duo of 2 to maximize their efficiency. Other units that we can get are the Peace Rhine. I definitely want to have 2 of these to make sure I get a bit more anti-tank capability in there. That's always something that a motorized deck will struggle with. You want to have longer range tank sniping capability, and this is the one to do it. We're going to go with a Tornado ECR, which is always a very good seed craft. They got 4 long range seed missiles with 65% accuracy and enough armor penetration to kill off anything. You can go with 2, but I don't have enough aircraft to justify that. And then I'm going to go with 2 bombers, which will give me the Tornado IDS bombers, the Tornado IDS with 4 500 kilogram bombs. Nice amount of HE power. 15 points will pretty much scatter any infantry group real quick, and usually stun enemy heavy tanks. So that leaves me with 16 points to spend. And I'm going to first get me another card of tanks, which gives me 14 points. I'll be lucky if I can fill up those 14 points. Let's go back to Recon. I want to get another card of Fern Spares. So I'm going to delete that one and keep those grouped up nicely so I can see that I have 2 of them. I can go with another Leopard, but I already got enough of these in the form of 10 Recon Leopards. The Kurz is something that I personally never use, but they're not bad so long as you disable their weapon system. They got a pretty good off-road speed, pretty good autonomy of 500, but their weapon is pretty bad. It is barely capable of hitting a target with only 15% accuracy, and it is an autocannon, but I still would be careful with using this thing. I wouldn't really recommend it. So instead I'm going to consider going with another card of looks. The thing is that as I'm comparing these, the Kurz compared with the looks is a lot smaller. It has small versus medium size. They both have medium stealth, so I'm not worried about that. The looks has a better weapon as far as I'm concerned. Or actually, no, it has exactly the same weapon with the same specs, but it's a different weapon. And the optics are good on either of them. So actually, why not try the Kurz out for a while? Gives me one more point I can spend here, and I can go with an Iltis if I want to. I don't really need that. I would like to get another very good or exceptional spotting unit, but I don't think I have access to those. The only exceptional that I get is my PAH2 Tiger. The rest of them just have very good optics. Besides, I got 41 units in Recon. I should have enough. So we're going to go with another card of Fallschirmjäger. I'm going to, again, group those up nicely. And this gives me a lot of those Fallschirmjäger. Now don't confuse this standard Fallschirmjäger with the 90s, because you may find yourself squaring off against a tank that you just cannot penetrate. The difference in arm penetration is 8 points, and that is significant. You will find yourself doing a lot less damage to a tank if you cannot penetrate it with the PZF-44. However, at the same time, these units can kill off virtually any infantry that they might come up against. Okay, I still have 10 points to spend. Let's go into vehicles, because this is a deck that benefits or that gets additional veterancy in the vehicle tab. Let's see, I want to get a cheap or cheap-ish unit that I can hide in tree lines to provide fire support. Considering this one, but as I mentioned, the stats aren't really impressive. The Iltis can go to positions quickly with 110 km off-road speed, and I get a quite high number of those. Yeah, why not? Let's try some ambushing tactics. Actually, just throw in 20. Why not? I get 7 points to spare there. Helicopters, I think I maximized the capabilities and the requirements here. I can go with the 105P with the Hot 1 missile versus the Hot 2. Hot 1 is less accurate, and 55% for me is good. 40% is a point where I say, no, I'm not going to take this unit, because it's much more likely to miss, which means that out of those 6 missiles that they carry, they're not that likely to hit. So not helos. Tanks, we're going to go with the Leopard 1A4. These are going to escort my vehicle infantries, or my infantry transports, into towns and provide a bit of anti-vehicle capability. If they die, so be it. They're just there as a bit of a delaying force. I still got 5 points to spend. We had the vehicle, we did the recon. Let's go with support. Because of FRR Roland 2, this will give me 10 AA capacity, which is quite high. But I already got quite a bit of AA capacity between all the Gepards and the Rolands, so that should be enough. So instead, why not go with the Lars? It's not my usual play, but it can work. And now I still have 2 points to spend, which I'm going to spend 1 in recon and 1 on vehicles. So over here, I got 4 recon helos, which is enough. What to go with? The Iltis is another really cheap unit with very good optics. Actually, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to go with another card of looks. And we're just going to do it like this, so that I have better optics on those things. They got an even better chance to spot targets with their veteran optics. And I want to spread out a couple of these, which are cheaper at 25 points versus 40 points. And I'm going to get more of those. So I got 48 recon units here. Gives me 1 more unit that I can spend on vehicles. And now I'm completely at a loss of what to pick. I'm not going to go with this one, bad autonomy. This one has bad accuracy, we already picked those. So why not? we're gonna go with the Kanonenjagdpanzer and try and get some shots with these things. So, this deck filled out actually better than I had expected. Does that make it a viable deck though? I think it is. It has everything that I would require from a motorized deck. In infantry, I got exceptionally good infantry in the form of the Fallschirmjäger, as well as the Fallschirmjäger 90. You could even go with a third card of base Fallschirmjäger, but 40 points for holding infantry is too expensive for my taste, so that's what I got the Jaeger for. You could also try and spam as many Jaeger as you want, and for example delete the Fallschirmjäger and get 2 more cards in, which will put you at, let's see, if you were to go with the Fuchs, put you at 73 and 14 more, 87 infantry units, but that's, as far as I'm concerned, way too many. So Fallschirmjäger, 1 in the Fuchs and 1 in the Fuchs Milan, like that. Anyway, good infantry. I can provide them with AA and fire support due to the artillery, both in the form of the Lars 2 as well as my mortars. I've got 34 tanks getting ready to go. Leo 1A4s to support my infantry push initially, 1A5s to do longer range engagements with their 16 armor penetration. A ton of reconnaissance units, a lot of passive and active spotting capability. Lots and lots and lots of vehicles, mostly because I couldn't spend my activation points elsewhere. I know I could have gotten another bomber, but this thing is about the vehicles, not so much about the aircraft. A bit of helicopters and enough aircraft to do what I need them to do. So yeah, I think it is actually viable. If you want to use this one, the deck code is in the description down below. Once you copy it, make sure that your browser doesn't accidentally copy additional hyphens with it. If you don't know what a hyphen is, it's the mark next to the 0 on your keyboard. Sometimes it does that, and that will cause the deck or the deck code to fail, and you will get a invalid deck code warning. So once that happens, make sure you don't get any additional copying done. Anyway, I look forward to hearing your opinions on this deck. I might take it out for a spin sometime, maybe Monday during the stream, but we'll see about that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.